So in this video, which is the last video in this series on .NET Core, I'm going to be creating the phone number pages. Recall that we don't need a details page for the phone number because we're showing the phone number details on the person details page. But we do need to be able to edit and delete them and create new ones. Remember also that creating is just editing with an ID of 0 to save it. So, but we will need a person ID sent into that page to know which person to save it for. So what we're going to do now is look at what we said we were going to create the page as, edit phone number. So we're going to create that page. Add, here's a page. We're going to look at the code behind, and we're going to copy this first from the edit page because it's really similar. And we're going to just Control all, replace on this page, phone number for person. So first thing we want to do is get our using statements correct. It's our constructor that we wrote over. And so now we're going to replace person with phone number. And now we have to think about actually the get. So the get is going to have person ID as well, because we can send that. So going back to this edit page, oh no, I'm sorry, details page. Details page, when we want to create a new phone number, we say phone number equals 0 and person ID equals the person ID. Whereas when we edit it, we just need to send the phone number ID because the phone number record has a person ID on it. So we need to account for that. So if phone number ID is not greater than 0, then we need to make sure that there is a person ID, right? So we want to say if person ID is less than or equal to 0, we want to throw an error and just say person not found. Otherwise, we want to load in the person, right? Oh, one other thing here. We got to load in the person on the phone number. Basically, when you say get it from the database, you're saying give me the phone number object, but it doesn't initiate the person object on the phone number. So you have to tell it to include that. So please include the person when you load this phone number in, is what you're saying. Otherwise, we have to say this dot phone number dot person equals, and we're going to find the person instead. I like to cheat and cut and paste a lot of stuff, obviously. So now we've loaded everything we need to load on the page, but now we need to think about how when we save what's going to happen. Well, when we say a new one, we're sending in a person ID. Sorry, when we're editing it. We don't need to load in anything extra. But if we're creating a new one, we need to save it with the entire person record. So we need to actually load that in here and say this dot, because we're sending in from the page a person ID, but again, the person's null. We need to make sure that we say the person, we have to find the person that it's relating to. So that way when we save it, it doesn't try to create a new person. If that makes sense. So the same as this line, but no, person ID, it'll be this phone number person ID. And then our redirect, we're not redirecting back to the root, where is a list of people. We want to redirect back to this person so we can look at the phone number we just added on that person. So that's the details page. Okay, and that's it. So we should be good. There should be nothing we missed. Everything looks good on here. And so now we want to make how we're going to display it. Well, what does it look like to display this? A lot like the edit page for the person, right? So we'll just copy this. We know that it's only one field, so we'll get rid of one of the fields here, but sure what I copied. Pardon me. So here we got phone number, my edit phone, or edit create phone, or I could actually do a copy and replace person with phone number. And this would just be number. And we don't need a second field. Now we need another hidden field though for the person ID, right? Okay. And then our redirect back is the same as it was in the other one. We could even copy it, right? So we'll say edit phone number. It's a little messy, but whatever. This phone number person ID to string. So this would be model instead. And that's it. So this will on cancel go back to the details page. The submit, we already know, goes back to the details page for the same person ID. So we should be good. Let's give it a shot. So first we're going to go to the details page to add a new phone number. Just gonna add this. Let's do the one. Edit it, submit, and it worked. So there you go. What about editing it? It works. So there you go. So that is editing and adding, create and update. So now we need delete. So we need to add a razor page called delete phone number. And this one, again, is going to be very similar to the delete code here. And just copy this over. This one's even more similar than the edit page was because we have an ID. We know we're going to be just doing this. 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 And this. And guess what? That was it. That's pretty much it. So this will do it. We want to redirect back to the same redirect from before. So here we want to, because we're deleting, I would say just to be careful, let's create a person ID. And we'll say person ID is dot phone number dot person ID, which means also that we'll have to include the person, right? Include the and then when we do our redirect, we can go back to details, question mark, person ID equals plus the person ID we just made. This way, if something gets deleted, so I could do just this phone number person ID, but I think it probably removes it from the collection. I don't know what it does to the object, whether it destroys it. So just in case, I saved it right before I deleted it. So now I should be able to delete a person or a phone number as well. Details. Ta-da. Okay, so that's the phone number one. Just to get a little bit of practice, I would recommend now you implement the edit and delete for email address and address. Use this same kind of structure, and you should be able to do it pretty easily. All right, that's it. That's the series, how to create web pages and use the entity framework in .NET Core. Thanks.